My lords, that I can only think of Her Majesty as a young queen. I wrote to her at her 80th birthday to tell her. That must seem very strange when she was 80 years old, and even stranger now, she's 96 years old. Let me explain, and to do so, I will take your lordships, if I may, back to the 6th of February, 1952. I was then a schoolboy, aged 13 years. It was a normal start to a normal school day, but by mid-morning, a rumour was passing round the school that the king had died. This was a great shock. He was only 56 years old. We knew then things were not well when the BBC shut down all its radio programs, the Home Service, the Light programme, and the third programme of those who can remember those days. It was a particular shock because we didn't know the king was ill. As young schoolboys, we didn't notice, insofar as we looked at newspapers, that the king looked awfully unwell a few days earlier when bidding farewell to his daughter, Princess Elizabeth, and the Duke of Edinburgh when they were starting a world tour on his behalf. So we learned on that very day that he was being succeeded by the young Princess Elizabeth, only 25 years old. But this was not much older than most of our school children. It was only 12 years older than me. That evening we had a broadcast from the Prime Minister. He mainly directed his broadcast to a tribute to the late king. He made little mention of the new monarch until the end. And with great Churchillian style, he said, "I must end this broadcast with an anthem and prayer of my youth, God save the Queen." Shortly afterwards, we heard at my school that the young Queen was paying a visit to Portsmouth. It so happened that my school was quite close to the A3, which was the road from London, or still is the road from London to Portsmouth. So we went, a group of us went to the roadside. The royal car then, on Her Majesty's directions, I'm sure, slowed down to almost walking pace. And we were able to have a wonderful view. This is my first opportunity to see Her Majesty, a wonderful view of Her Majesty. Next, my lord, came the coronation in June of 1953. The Queen was then only 27 years old. I was the only person in my family, I had some jealousy over this, who wasn't in the Abbey at the coronation. But I was allowed to go to the dress rehearsal where the Duchess of Norfolk, the wife of the Lord Marshal, took the role of the Queen. Of course, the Queen wasn't there, and that made her performance at the coronation a faultless performance, a particular credit to her. The next time, my lords, that I saw the Queen was 4 years later. She was then 31 years of age. I was doing my national service in the Royal Navy, and I took part in a royal review off the coast of Invergordon in the north east of Scotland. The review started with all the vessels then of the Navy, or as many of them could be gathered together, steaming past the Royal Yacht, which was only in very new use, with a wonderful gleaming hull. And when we'd passed as we passed the Royal Yacht, we doffed our hats. The next day, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh gave the whole day to be aboard HMS Arch Royal, the then leading carrier in the Royal Navy, in which I had the honour to serve. Her Majesty spent most of the day in the control of the ship, the bridge, which controls the movements of the ship itself, and FLYCO, which was in charge of the movement of aircraft when taking off and when landing from the aircraft. It was an exciting day, obviously, to Her Majesty, and it was always rather exciting to us. The aeroplanes were catapulted off the front of the carrier, and there was always a danger the catapult wouldn't quite function strongly enough, or the engines of the aircraft being taken off weren't sufficiently revved up. And there were occasions when the aircraft would dip and almost skim over the water before it got sufficient power to fly. The landing was also an exciting event. The method then was for the aircraft to have a hook at its stern and to catch one of the hawsers as it came in to land on the carrier. But there were occasions when it failed to catch the hawser, and then a frantic signal was given to the pilot to roar off the deck and hopefully not dip into the water. Her Majesty thoroughly enjoyed that and watched all the detail of the day. I was in the chart room as a very young navigating officer, which was very close to the bridge and flyco, and I was therefore able to witness Her Majesty deal with a problem. Her problem was she was in high heels, and it was catching the decking on the ship. So she asked the captain if she could remove her shoes, and for the rest of the day she padded around in her stocking feet, still enjoying and still participating so much in the event. Although, my lords, I've had the honour on several occasions to meet Her Majesty in person in Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace and other places, these memories are quite indelible for me. The greatest tribute, therefore, I think I can give to Her Majesty has been her success in avoiding any expressions of views on political matters. It is true that she has very occasionally dropped a few hints, but for the most part this has been most rare. Her views on the Scottish independence were unfortunately leaked by Prime Minister Cameron, and I always thought that Her Majesty was anti-Brexit. It was going to badly disturb our status quo, as indeed I believe it has. But I simply, like everybody else, did not know what was Her Majesty's view on Brexit. So I feel I must end this short tribute to her with Churchill's words of his youth, which has been the anthem and prayer of my last 70 years, Her Majesty's last 70 years. God save the Queen.
My Lord.